The Grand Assembly Hall floated in the darkness of space like a giant crystal flower. Its walls were made of pure energy that shifted between colors no human eye had names for. Inside, 12 alien species sat in judgment of humanity's future. Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the massive chamber. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but her back remained straight. Around her, representatives from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy looked down from their floating platforms. The Zephrani with their long tentacles that moved like water, the Corvin whose bodies were made of living metal, the Etherians who existed as clouds of conscious gas. The High Chancellor of the Galactic Council rose from his seat. He was a Zephrani, and his voice sounded like wind chimes when he spoke through his translator. Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth and her colonies, you stand before this council to hear our final decision regarding humanity's membership in our great alliance. Chen Wei said nothing. She had already given her defense speeches. She had shown them humanity's art, their music, their acts of kindness and heroism, but she had seen their minds were already made up. After 50 Earth years of observation, the High Chancellor continued, "We have reached our conclusion. Humanity is too dangerous. Your species fights among yourselves even now. You create weapons from every discovery. You spread across the galaxy like a virus, changing everything you touch. You do not think before you act. You let emotions rule your decisions." A murmur ran through the watching crowds. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds had come to witness this moment. Many nodded in agreement. They had all heard the stories. Humans who had taken apart perfectly safe technology to see how it worked, often breaking it. Humans who had started colony wars over pride. Humans who had accidentally created artificial intelligences that nearly destroyed space stations. The Corvin representative stood up, his metal body reflecting the chamber's lights. 3 months ago, human colonists on Kepler 442 experimented with quantum tunnel drives against all safety warnings. They created a black hole that consumed an entire moon. 17,000 beings died. Chen Wei wanted to explain that those colonists had been trying to create a new energy source to help a dying alien colony nearby, but she knew they would not care about good intentions. The Etherian drifted forward, its gaseous form swirling. Humans cannot be trusted with advanced technology. You are children playing with fire in a forest of ancient trees. The risk is too great. Then teach us, Chen Wei finally spoke. Her voice was calm but strong. Help us learn. Is that not what the Council is supposed to do? The High Chancellor's tentacles moved in what Chen Wei had learned was a gesture of dismissal. We have tried. For 50 years we have tried. But humans do not learn. You adapt, you change, you survive, but you do not learn control. You do not learn peace. You do not learn to accept the universe as it is. Chen Wei felt her heart sink. She knew what was coming. Therefore, the High Chancellor announced, by unanimous vote of all 12 Council species, humanity is hereby exiled from Council space. You will be relocated to the Abyss sector, where you can no longer harm the civilized galaxy. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even those who supported the decision seemed shocked. The Abyss sector was a region of space where the laws of physics broke down. Ships that entered never returned. It was where the Council sent things they wanted to disappear forever. You're sending us to die, Chen Wei said quietly. We are giving you a chance to survive on your own terms. The High Chancellor replied, is that not what humans always claim to want? Freedom, independence, you will have both in the Abyss. How many of our children will die in that place? Chen Wei asked. How many innocent people are you murdering with this decision? The Corvin representative's voice boomed through the chamber. Fewer than would die if humanity remains and starts a galactic war. Our models predict with 97% certainty that humans will cause a major conflict within the next 100 years, if allowed to remain. Chen Wei looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. Some looked away. Others stared back without emotion. You fear us, she said. All of you. You fear us because we remind you of what you used to be before you became old and comfortable. You fear our passion. You fear our curiosity. You fear that we might surpass you one day. Silence, the High Chancellor commanded. The decision is final. Humanity has 30 standard cycles to evacuate all Council territories. Any humans remaining after that time will be removed by force. Your colony ships will be escorted to the Abyss boundary and released. What happens after that is no longer our concern. Chen Wei stood silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. and her words would be remembered throughout the galaxy for generations to come. You mistake our adaptability for chaos. You mistake our passion for weakness. You think you are exiling us, but you are freeing us. The abyss does not scare humanity. The unknown does not scare us. It never has. She paused, looking directly at the High Chancellor. You will remember this day, not as our end, but as your greatest mistake. When we return, and we will return, you will beg for the alliance you threw away today. The High Chancellor waved a tentacle. Remove the ambassador. Send word to all human colonies. The exodus begins immediately. As guards escorted Chen Wei from the chamber, she heard the council members already moving on to other business. For them, humanity was already forgotten. A problem solved. A danger removed. Outside the chamber, Chen Wei's assistant, Marcus Thompson, was waiting. His young face was pale. Ambassador? What happened? We've been exiled, Marcus. To the abyss, Marcus stumbled. The abyss? But nothing survives there. The physics, the radiation, the temporal storms. Chen Wei put a hand on his shoulder. Nothing has survived there yet. But nothing that went in was human. She activated her communicator. This is Ambassador Chen Wei to all human colonies. Emergency Protocol 7 is now active. We have 30 cycles to leave Council space. Where are we going? A voice asked over the communicator. Chen Wei looked out at the stars through the station's window. Somewhere out there, beyond the mapped regions, beyond the safe zones, lay the abyss, a graveyard of ships and civilizations, a place where space itself was broken. We're going to our new home, she said, and we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to adapt, we're going to survive, and then we're going to thrive. The evacuation began within hours. 14 billion humans across 200 colonies started packing their lives into massive colony ships. Factories worked without stopping to build more vessels. Every human who could fly a ship volunteered for the Exodus fleet. The other species watched in confusion. Where was the panic? Where were the pleas for mercy? Why were the humans working together so efficiently? Even their criminals were being released from prisons to help with the evacuation. Their corporations were giving away resources for free. Their military and civilians worked side by side. Admiral Sarah Kowalski took command of the Exodus fleet. She was a veteran of the colonial conflicts, a woman who had seen humanity at its worst and best. As reports came in of the evacuation progress, she stood on the bridge of the flagship Resilience and planned their journey into hell. Admiral, her navigation officer reported, we've mapped the safest route to the abyss boundary. The Council is providing escort ships to make sure we actually go in. Of course they are, Kowalski muttered. They want to make sure we're really gone. As the human colonies emptied and the great fleet assembled, something strange began to happen. The humans were not just evacuating. They were taking everything, dismantling entire cities and loading them onto ships, downloading entire libraries of alien knowledge they had legal access to, trading final favors for supplies and technology. The Council watched nervously. This was not how species usually acted when exiled. They were supposed to despair. They were supposed to beg. Instead, humanity prepared for the abyss like they were preparing for the greatest adventure of their species. Scientists volunteered to go first to study the phenomenon. Engineers drew up plans for shields that might work in impossible physics. Doctors prepared for injuries that had no name. As Chen Wei boarded one of the last ships to leave Earth's first colony world, she turned to look back one final time. The Council thought they were ending humanity's story. They had no idea they were actually writing its first real chapter. The boundary of the abyss did not look like a wall or a barrier. It looked like reality having a nightmare. Admiral Sarah Kowalski stood on the bridge of the Resilience watching the impossible sight through the main view screen. Space itself seemed to twist and fold, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Colors that should not exist danced across the void. Sometimes she could swear she saw the same star in 3 different places at once. All ships report ready, Admiral, her communications officer announced. Behind them, 200 colony ships carried 14 billion humans toward their exile. The Council escort ships had stopped at what they considered a safe distance, unwilling to go any closer to the abyss. Council ships are transmitting, Admiral, the officer added. They're saying this is our last chance to send a message to Council space. Kowalski thought for a moment. Tell them, see you soon. She could imagine the confusion on the alien ships. They expected begging, crying, last words of despair, not a promise to return. Take us in, Kowalski ordered. All ships maintain formation as long as possible. Remember your training. Trust your instincts when the instruments fail, and they will fail. The Resilience moved forward and the human fleet followed. As they crossed the boundary, reality went insane. The first thing to go was gravity. Not disappearing, but flowing like water. Kowalski grabbed her command chair as the floor suddenly became the ceiling, then the wall, then something at an angle that should not exist in three-dimensional space. Several crew members were not fast enough and found themselves floating in bubbles of reversed gravity. Shields are... I don't know what the shields are doing. The tactical officer shouted. They're working, but the readings say they're also not working. They're in multiple states at once. The view screen showed impossible things. A planet that was inside out, a star that burned with cold fire, space that was solid and matter that was empty, and everywhere, the wreckage of thousands of ships. Alien vessels from species both known and unknown, all twisted into shapes that geometry said could not exist. We're losing ships, someone screamed. The Harmony, the New Tokyo, the Hope's Dawn. They're just gone. Kowalski forced herself to stay calm. They had expected losses. The Abyss was a killer of civilizations. But humans had one advantage. They adapted faster than any other known species. All ships, this is Admiral Kowalski. Stop trying to make sense of it. Stop looking at your instruments. Feel your way through. Trust the monkey brain that kept our ancestors alive. If it feels wrong, move. If it feels right, go there. Logic is dead here. Instinct is king. It was advice that would have horrified any council species. To abandon logic and embrace chaos was madness to them. But humans had evolved on a death world where quick instincts meant survival. Dr. Rashid Hassan, the fleet's lead scientist, was having the strangest experience of his life. As the laws of physics broke down around him, his brain was doing something unexpected. It was adapting. Where his instruments showed nonsense, his eyes were beginning to see patterns. Not logical patterns, but patterns nonetheless. Admiral, he called out, his voice excited despite the chaos. I'm seeing something. The Abyss isn't random. It's like music without sound. Like poetry without words. There's a rhythm to it. What kind of rhythm? Kowalski asked, dodging as a console nearby suddenly aged 1,000 years in a second, then reformed as if new. I don't know how to explain it, but I can feel it. And I think our brains can process it. The human brain isn't as logical as the council species. We have intuition, gut feelings, hunches. Those things are working here. A young pilot named James Park was the first to really understand. He had always been considered a poor pilot by council standards, because he flew by feel rather than by the book. But here in the Abyss, that made him a genius. He closed his eyes and let his hands move the controls without thinking. His ship, the Vagrant Sun, danced through space that folded and twisted. He avoided gravity wells that appeared and disappeared. He flew through solid matter that was not solid and around empty space that would have crushed his ship. Follow the Vagrant Sun, Kowalski ordered, seeing Park's ship moving smoothly through the chaos. All ships, follow that crazy bastard. The fleet began to form a chain, each ship following the one in front, trusting human instincts over broken instruments. They were still losing ships, but fewer now. Humans were learning the impossible dance of the Abyss. Then they found the first of the forgotten. It was a ship larger than any human vessel, made of a metal that seemed to exist in 7 dimensions at once. It had been there for thousands of years, maybe millions. Its crew was long dead, but the ship itself was preserved by the strange physics of the Abyss. Can we board it? Kowalski asked. Board it? Her first officer said. Admiral, that thing exists in multiple dimensions. We don't even know if our bodies can survive on it. Only one way to find out, Kowalski said. Call for volunteers. Every hand on the bridge went up. The boarding team found treasures beyond imagination. Technology that worked on principles no council science could explain. Engines that moved by convincing space they were already where they wanted to be. Weapons that fired probability instead of energy. Shields that existed in the past, present, and future simultaneously. How does any of this work? An engineer asked Dr. Hassan. Hassan laughed, a sound both mad and joyful. It doesn't. Not by any logic we know. But here's the thing. I think it works because someone believed it would work. The Abyss responds to consciousness, to will, to belief. The council species are too rigid, too logical. They can't believe in impossible things. But humans? We've been believing in impossible things since we first looked at the stars and decided to go there. They found more ships. Hundreds of them. Each one containing the remains of species that had entered the abyss and failed to adapt. But humans did what humans always did. They took the technology, mixed it together, and made it work through sheer stubborn belief that it should work. Within a week, human ships were moving through the abyss like they were born to it. Children who had been born during the journey seemed to understand the twisted space instinctively. They would point at dangers before instruments could detect them, laugh at gravity flows that would have killed them, and draw pictures of mathematical concepts that should not exist. The children are changing, Dr. Hassan reported to Kowalski. Their brains are developing differently. They're seeing things we can't see, understanding things we can't understand. Evolution is happening in real time. Kowalski watched a 6-year-old girl drawing on a tablet. The child was creating a map of local space-time, showing safe passages through the chaos. No instrument could have detected those passages, but the girl saw them as clearly as normal children saw colors. "We're going to survive this," Kowalski said quietly. "We're not just going to survive. We're going to thrive." They found a pocket of stable space deep in the abyss. It should not have existed, but it did. A place where reality was merely weird instead of completely insane. It was here that humanity would build its first settlement in exile. As the colony ships began to establish New Terra, they discovered something else. The abyss was not empty. There were things living here. Energy beings that sang in frequencies that bypassed the ears and went straight to the soul. Creatures of pure thought that existed in the spaces between spaces. And they were curious about these new arrivals who could survive where so many others had failed. The Void Singers, as humans came to call them, were the first to make contact. They were beautiful and terrible, existing as patterns of energy that moved through the twisted space like dolphins through water. They had watched 1,000,000 species enter the abyss and die. But humans were different. Humans adapted. Humans learned. Humans believed. One of them approached Dr. Hassan during an expedition to map the local area. It did not speak in words, but in concepts that appeared directly in his mind. "You are new," it sang thought. "You are different. You bend but do not break. You see the music of chaos." "We're humans," Hassan replied, not sure if the being could understand him. "We're good at impossible things." "Impossible," the Void Singer considered. "Yes, you believe in impossible. That is why you survive. The others, they believed only in possible. The abyss ate them. But you might be what we have been waiting for." Waiting for what? The Void Singer's energy pattern shifted into something that might have been amusement. To wake the sleeper. To change the song. To make the abyss dance to a new rhythm. Hassan did not understand, but he recorded everything. Humanity had found its first allies in this impossible place. And with their help, humans began to understand that the abyss was not a prison. It was an opportunity. 5 years had passed since humanity entered the abyss, and New Terra was no longer just a refugee camp. It was a city that should not exist, built on principles that would have made council scientists weep in frustration. Buildings grew from crystallized time, their walls solid to humans but non-existent to the strange radiations of the abyss. Streets flowed like rivers, carrying people where they needed to go by reading their intentions. The sky was a dome of controlled chaos, showing 3 different starscapes depending on the angle of view. Mayor Chen Lin, daughter of the late ambassador, Chen Wei, stood in the central plaza watching children play. These children were different from the ones who had entered the abyss. Their eyes held swirls of color that moved like galaxies. They could see probability streams, the different paths the future might take. When they played hide and seek, they hid in spaces between moments, laughing as their parents tried to find them with conventional thinking. "The new generation is remarkable," Dr. Hassan said, joining her. He had aged strangely in the abyss. His hair was white, but his eyes were younger, sharper, seeing things in spectrums that did not exist in normal space. "Young Sarah Chen just showed me how to fold a piece of paper through 7 dimensions. She's 8 years old." Lynn nodded. Her own changes were more subtle but no less profound. She could feel the flow of the abyss like a heartbeat, knew when storms of broken physics were coming days before they arrived. "We're becoming something new, aren't we? Not quite human anymore." "Still human," Hassan corrected. "Just more." Evolution usually takes millions of years. Here it takes a generation, maybe less. A communication from the shipyards interrupted them. Captain Marcus Thompson's face appeared on a floating screen that existed in multiple times simultaneously. Mayor Lin, Dr. Hassan, you need to see this. We've done it. We've built the first Chaos ship. The shipyard was a marvel of impossible engineering, a space where humanity built vessels using technology salvaged from 1,000 dead civilizations, combined in ways their original creators never imagined. The Chaos ship floated there, and looking at it was like looking at a beautiful nightmare. It did not have a fixed shape. It was a destroyer-class vessel when viewed from the left, a science ship from the right, and something that hurt the eyes from directly ahead. It existed in multiple dimensions at once, powered by engines that ran on crystallized possibility, and armed with weapons that fired concepts rather than energy. "How does it fly?" Lin asked. Thompson grinned. "It doesn't fly. It convinces the universe that it's already where it wants to be. The pilot doesn't steer it so much as negotiate with it. And the best part? Only humans can operate it. Our neural plasticity, our ability to believe in contradictions, to hold multiple ideas at once. We're the only ones who can make it work. The council species could never use this." Hassan breathed in wonder. "Their minds are too ordered, too logical. They'd go insane trying to understand it." "That's the point," Thompson said. "We're not just surviving in the abyss. We're becoming its masters." The Void Singers had been instrumental in teaching humans the deeper secrets of the abyss. They were beings of pure consciousness, older than most civilizations, and they had been waiting for someone like humanity for eons. Harmony of endless equations. The Void Singer, who had become humanity's primary liaison, materialized in the shipyard. Its form was a shifting pattern of light and sound that bypassed normal senses and spoke directly to consciousness. "You have built the first song," it declared, its words appearing as colors in the minds of those present. "Now you must learn the greater mystery." "What greater mystery?" Lin asked. The Void Singer's pattern shifted into something that might have been excitement. "The abyss is not natural. It was created, built as a prison for something that threatened all existence. The Council's ancestors knew this. They thought by sending you here, you would be destroyed like all others. They did not know you would be the key." Hassan stepped forward. "A prison for what?" "Not what. Who? The Sleeper. A being of pure chaos from before the universe had rules. The first civilizations trapped it here, in a cage of broken physics where its power would be contained. But the cage has been empty for so long, the Sleeper has been waiting for someone who could hear its song." "And we can hear it?" Lin asked, though she already knew the answer. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, she could feel something vast and ancient watching them, waiting. "You do more than hear it," the Void Singer replied. "You harmonize with it. You and the Sleeper are alike. You both thrive in chaos, find possibility in impossibility. It wants to make a deal." The meeting with the Sleeper did not happen in any physical space. It happened in a place between thoughts, where the leadership of New Terra found themselves standing before something that could not be described in any human language. The Sleeper was vast and tiny, ancient and newly born, terrible and beautiful. It spoke in paradoxes that somehow made perfect sense. "Little chaos singers," it said. Sang thought. "You have come at last. I have been alone for so long, trapped by those who feared change, feared growth, feared the beauty of uncertainty. What do you want?" Lin asked, surprised that she could speak in this strange space. "Freedom, but not escape. I have learned patience in my eons of imprisonment. I propose an alliance. I will teach you the true nature of chaos, make you masters of impossibility. You will be able to reshape reality itself within the abyss. In exchange, you will carry a piece of me with you when you leave, not enough to threaten the ordered universe, but enough to plant seeds of beautiful chaos wherever you go." "And if we refuse?" Hassan asked. The Sleeper's presence shifted into something like amusement. "Then you will remain as you are, survivors in the abyss, but never its masters. The choice is yours. But know this. The Council will not leave you in peace forever. They fear what you might become. They will come to finish what they started. Without my gifts, you might not survive their return. Lynn looked at the others. Thompson nodded. Hassan was already taking mental notes. The other leaders of humanity's exile showed agreement. They had come too far to refuse power when it was offered. We accept, Lynn said. The change was immediate. Every human in the abyss felt it. A shift in their consciousness like a door opening in their minds. Suddenly the chaos made sense. Not logical sense, but intuitive sense. They could see the patterns in the madness, the music in the screaming void. Children born after the alliance were even more changed. They could step through walls by believing the walls were not there. They could be in multiple places at once because they did not accept that they had to choose. They aged at different rates depending on their mood, some staying children for decades, others reaching adulthood in years. The technology humanity developed became even more impossible. Ships that were bigger inside than outside. Weapons that fired backwards through time to hit targets before they fired. Shields that protected by making attacks never have happened in the first place. New Terra grew from a city to a nation, spreading through the abyss in ways that normal geometry could not map. Humans established colonies on planets that existed in parallel dimensions, built stations in the spaces between spaces, created trade routes through corridors of controlled chaos. The Void Singers became partners and teachers. Other species that had adapted to the abyss in their own ways began to seek alliance with humanity. The fractal minds, beings of living mathematics. The probability dancers, creatures that existed as potential rather than actuality. The echo prophets who remembered futures that had not happened yet. We're building an empire, Thompson said one day, looking at the reports of new settlements and allies. An empire of impossibility. The Council wanted to exile us, Lynn replied, her eyes now holding the same swirling galaxies as the children. They thought they were sending us to our deaths. Instead, they gave us the keys to power they cannot imagine. Hassan, now able to exist in multiple locations simultaneously to conduct his research, appeared in several places around the room. I've been studying the salvaged Council databases we brought with us. There are hints, suggestions that some in the Council know the truth about the abyss. They know what they sent us to. They're afraid. Good, Lynn said. They should be. We're not the same humans they exiled. We're something more now, something that exists outside their understanding of reality. She looked out at the impossible sky of New Terra, where stars were being born from pure thought and dying in reverse. Somewhere out there, beyond the boundary of the abyss, the Council continued their ordered existence, secure in their belief that they had solved the human problem. They had no idea what was coming. The Council warship Eternal Order detected the spatial distortion at the edge of their territory at exactly 14 hours, Galactic Standard Time. By 1401, its crew was trying to understand what they were seeing. By 1402, they were afraid. A ship had emerged from the abyss boundary, not crashed through, not forced its way out, but simply appeared as if space itself had decided to put it there. It was clearly a human vessel, but it was wrong in every way. It existed in too many dimensions, cast shadows that fell upward, and seemed to be both approaching and receding at the same time. Captain Zorex of the Corvan Defense Force, his metal body reflecting the bridge lights, tried to make sense of his instruments. This is impossible. Nothing returns from the abyss, nothing. Sir, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. The human ship it's already past us, but also still approaching, and also hasn't arrived yet. Fire warning shots, Zorex ordered, though he was not sure how to target something that existed in multiple states simultaneously. The weapons fired. The beams traveled through space, hit the human ship, passed through it, hit it in the past, missed it in the future, and somehow all of these things happened at once. The human ship continued forward, unaffected, impossible, inevitable. On board the Chaos Ship Paradox, Captain Marcus Thompson smiled. He could see the Council ship's confusion in the probability streams, watch their panic ripple through potential futures. His crew moved around him, but not in normal space. Some were walking on the ceiling, Others were phasing through consoles, and his navigator was currently existing as a cloud of consciousness interfacing directly with the ship's impossible engines. "Should we return their greeting, Captain?" his weapons officer asked. She was a young woman whose eyes held spinning galaxies, one of the generation born in the abyss. "No need," Thompson replied. "We're here to deliver a message, not start a war." "Take us to the council station." "All the council stations." "All of them, sir?" "At once?" Thompson grinned. "Why not? We don't have to choose just one anymore." The paradox split, not physically but conceptually. It became multiple versions of itself, each one real, each one the original. They appeared simultaneously in orbit around all 12 council homeworlds, at every major space station, at every military outpost. Billions of aliens looked up to see the impossible ship hanging in their skies like a promise and a threat. Thompson's message played everywhere at once, his image appearing on every screen, every communication device, every neural interface in council space. "Greetings from humanity," he said calmly. "We have survived the abyss, we have conquered it. We have become it. This is not an invasion. This is a demonstration. We want you to understand what you have created by exiling us." He gestured, and images appeared beside him. New Terra in all its impossible glory. Humans walking through walls, children playing in folded space. Ships that defied every law of physics the Council held sacred. The abyss was meant to be our tomb. Instead, it has become our kingdom. We have made allies with beings you cannot imagine. We have mastered technologies you cannot understand. We have evolved beyond your comprehension. The Council had assembled an emergency session, all 12 species representatives watching in horror as Thompson continued. "But we are not here for revenge. We are here to establish new terms. The abyss is now sovereign human territory. We claim it absolutely and eternally. Any ship that enters will be under our jurisdiction. However, we are willing to establish trade. The abyss contains resources and technologies that exist nowhere else in the galaxy. We can offer you wonders beyond imagination." The High Chancellor, the same Zafrani who had pronounced humanity's exile, spoke through the communication system. "You are still exiled. Return to the abyss or face the combined might of the Council fleet." Thompson laughed, and his laughter echoed through multiple dimensions. "Your fleet? Allow me to demonstrate why that would be unwise." The paradox moved, not through space but around it. It appeared inside the defense perimeter of the Council's most secure military installation, a fortress that had never been breached in 10,000 years. It stayed there for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to prove it could, then vanished and reappeared at its original position. "Your shields mean nothing to us," Thompson continued. "Your weapons cannot hit something that exists in multiple states. Your logic-based minds cannot comprehend our chaos-based technology. But more importantly—" He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer but somehow more threatening. "We have made a bargain with something ancient and powerful, something your ancestors tried to imprison. The sleeper sends its regards." The reaction was immediate. Several of the older Council species, those with long genetic memories, recoiled in terror. They knew that name. Their ancestors had whispered it in fear for millions of years. The Etherian Council member, its gaseous form swirling in agitation, spoke urgently. "The sleeper is contained. It must remain contained." "Oh, it is," Thompson assured them. "We haven't released it. We've partnered with it. A small piece of its essence now exists in every human. We are its children now, carriers of controlled chaos. And before you think of trying to destroy us, understand this. If humanity falls, the sleeper's full power will be released. We are not its prison. We are its willing hosts, and in exchange, it remains contained." The implications hung in the air like a threat. Humanity had made themselves indispensable to the safety of the galaxy. They could not be destroyed without releasing something far worse. "Here are our terms," Thompson continued. "Recognize our sovereignty over the abyss. Establish formal trade agreements for the resources and technologies we can provide. Grant us observer status in the Council, not as members but as an allied power. Do this and we will ensure the sleeper remains contained and you will benefit from our impossible technologies." "And if we refuse?" the High Chancellor asked. Thompson's expression grew cold. "Then we will slowly unravel the ordered universe you have built. Not through war but through chaos. We will appear in your markets and trade impossible goods that break your economies. We will teach your children to think in ways that horrify you. We will plant seeds of beautiful chaos in every corner of your sterile logical civilization. We won't conquer you. We'll change you. And you'll thank us for it. To prove his point, something strange began happening across Council space. Small gifts appeared on millions of worlds. Toys that defied physics for children to play with. Art that showed impossible perspectives. Music that contained frequencies that did not exist but could still be heard. Seeds of chaos, harmless but undeniable, proving that humanity could reach anywhere, anytime. The Council debated for 3 days. During that time, the paradox remained in all locations simultaneously, a constant reminder of humanity's new power. Other human ships began appearing at the abyss boundary, not leaving but visible, showing the Council that this was not one rogue vessel but an entire civilization transformed. Finally, the High Chancellor spoke. We accept your terms. The abyss is recognized as sovereign human territory. Trade agreements will be negotiated. Observer status is granted, Thompson nodded. Wise choice. Our first trade convoy will arrive in 30 days. Prepare your scientists and philosophers. What we bring will change everything you think you know about reality. As the paradox began to fade from Council space, returning to the abyss through angles that should not exist, Thompson delivered one final message. You exiled us to the abyss to protect yourselves from humanity's chaos. Instead, you have made us its masters. We are no longer the humans you feared. We are something far more dangerous and far more wonderful. We are the impossible made real. And we are just getting started. The ship vanished, leaving only questions and fear in its wake. Across the galaxy, Council citizens looked up at the stars and wondered what wonders and terrors would come from the abyss. In the Council chambers, the High Chancellor turned to his fellow representatives. What have we done? The ancient Voxari representative, who had lived for 3,000 years, spoke quietly. We have awakened something that was meant to sleep forever, and we have given it teachers who thrive on chaos. May the ordered universe help us all. Back in the abyss, humanity celebrated. They had not just survived their exile. They had transformed it into power. The Council had wanted them gone, and now they could never be ignored again. Maya Chen, daughter of the woman who had stood before the Council 7 years ago, looked out at the impossible vista of the abyss. Her eyes, swirling with galaxies, saw probability streams showing millions of possible futures. In all of them, humanity thrived. Grandmother was right, she said to the empty air that wasn't empty, where the sleeper's consciousness touched hers. This was never our end. It was our beginning. The sleeper's ancient consciousness rippled with something like satisfaction. It had waited eons for a species like humanity. Beings who did not fear chaos but embraced it, who did not seek order but created their own. Together they would reshape the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through the slow, inevitable spread of beautiful impossibility. 3 years after humanity's return, the Grand Assembly Hall had been rebuilt. Not physically, but conceptually. The old rigid structure was gone, replaced by something that existed in multiple states of possibility. The walls shifted between solid and translucent. The floor was sometimes there and sometimes not, and gravity flowed in artistic spirals that Council members were still learning to navigate. It was a small taste of what humanity had brought to the galaxy. A touch of chaos in the heart of order. Maya Chen stood where her grandmother had once stood, but she did not stand alone. She existed in 7 different positions simultaneously, each one equally real, speaking to different aspects of the assembled council. Her eyes held not just swirling galaxies now, but entire universes being born and dying in endless cycles. She had been chosen as humanity's voice, their representative in this new age. Not an ambassador, because humanity no longer needed permission to exist. Not a diplomat, because they no longer negotiated from weakness. She was simply the voice, speaking for a species that had transcended conventional existence. The quarterly trade report, she announced, and data streams appeared in the air, visible from angles that did not exist in normal space. 17,000 tons of crystallized time delivered to the Corvin forges. 3 million units of liquid probability sold to Zephrani scientists. 47 impossible works of art traded to the Etherian collectors. And 1 pocket universe, complete with its own laws of physics, purchased by the Voxari for their research station. The council members listened in a mixture of awe and unease. In 3 years, humanity's impossible goods had revolutionized galactic civilization. Technologies that should not work but did. Art that existed in more dimensions than the mind could process. foods that tasted like colors and sounds that could be touched. The galaxy was changing, becoming stranger, more wonderful and more terrifying. The High Chancellor, still the same Zephrani who had exiled humanity, spoke carefully. His tentacles moved in patterns that showed his discomfort with the new reality. The trade has been beneficial, but there are concerns. The technologies you provide are causing unexpected changes. Several species report their children are beginning to think differently, to see things that are not there. That are not there according to your limited perception, Maya corrected gently. They are learning to see reality as it truly is. Infinite, impossible, and beautiful. It is chaos, the Corvin representative protested, his metal body unable to fully adjust to the flowing gravity. You are spreading chaos throughout our ordered civilization. Maya smiled, and her smile existed in past, present, and future simultaneously. Yes, that was always the plan, but not chaos as destruction, chaos as possibility. Your civilizations had become stagnant, crystallized in your fear of change. We are helping you evolve. She gestured, and images appeared showing the changes across the galaxy. Corvin engineers who had learned to build machines that worked on belief as much as engineering. Zephrani artists creating works that existed in emotional dimensions. Etherian philosophers who had abandoned logic for intuition and found deeper truths. You tried to exile us because you feared our chaos. Maya continued, but chaos is not the opposite of order. It is its partner. You cannot have one without the other. The universe needs both to grow. A new figure materialized in the chamber, not through doors or transporters, but simply deciding to exist there. It was Admiral Sarah Kowalski, though she was barely recognizable as the woman who had led humanity into the abyss. Her body flickered between states, sometimes solid, sometimes energy, sometimes something between. She had volunteered for the deepest merger with the Sleeper's essence and had become something beyond human. We have a problem, she announced without preamble. The Devourers have found the galaxy. The Council froze. The Devourers were legend, nightmare stories told by the oldest species. Beings from outside reality that consumed entire galaxies, leaving nothing but void. They were the reason so many ancient civilizations had disappeared without trace. That's impossible, the High Chancellor stammered. The barrier has held for millions of years. The barrier was maintained by the Sleeper's prison, Kowalski explained. When we merged with it, the prison changed. The barrier weakened. They're coming. Your weapons won't stop them. Your shields won't hold them. They exist outside normal reality. In the spaces between spaces, only chaos can fight them. The council erupted in panic, but Maya raised her hand and silence fell. Not enforced, but suggested so strongly that everyone chose to be quiet. This is why the universe needed us, she said. Why the Sleeper chose us. We are the galaxy's immune system against threats that order alone cannot face. But we cannot do it alone. The council must choose. Embrace the chaos we offer, truly embrace it, or face extinction. The choice took only minutes. Faced with annihilation, even the most rigid minds can bend. What followed was the strangest transformation in galactic history. Humans' teachers spread across council space, not teaching technology, but teaching impossibility, how to believe in contradictions, how to think in directions that did not exist, how to be in multiple places at once, how to fight beings that existed outside reality by becoming partially unreal themselves. The Corvin learned to make their metal bodies flow like liquid thought. The Zephrani discovered how to exist as living music. The Etherians became clouds of conscious possibility. Each species remained themselves but became more, touched by the controlled chaos humanity had mastered. When the Devourers arrived, the galaxy was ready. The battle, if it could be called that, took place in dimensions that normal space only barely touched. Human chaos ships led the charge, piloted by beings who had abandoned fixed form for pure will. Council vessels transformed by impossible technologies fought in ways their designers never imagined. Ships that fired concepts instead of weapons, shields that protected by making attacks never exist, strategies that succeeded by failing and failed by succeeding. The Devourers had consumed 1,000 galaxies by being outside reality, untouchable, unstoppable, but they had never faced a civilization that had made unreality its home. Humanity and its changed allies fought them in the spaces between spaces, in moments that never were, in possibilities that could not be. The war lasted 7 days, 7 years and 7 seconds all simultaneously. When it ended, The devourers were not destroyed but transformed. Their hunger turned into curiosity, their consumption into creation. They became gardeners of reality, planting new possibilities wherever they went. In the aftermath, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Not destroyed but evolved. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions. Trade routes through impossible angles. Art that was also science, that was also philosophy. Children who aged backwards and forward at will. Death became optional, life became flexible, and reality became a suggestion rather than a rule. The council still existed, but it was no longer the rigid structure it had been. It was a flowing conversation between species that had learned to embrace both order and chaos. Humanity held a permanent seat, not as members but as partners, guides in the new impossible reality they had helped create. Maya Chen stood in the rebuilt assembly hall, now truly rebuilt into something that captured the spirit of the new galaxy. She looked out at the representatives of 100 species, all changed, all evolved, all carrying a touch of the beautiful chaos humanity had brought back from the abyss. "My grandmother stood here 15 years ago," she said, her voice echoing through dimensions. "You exiled us to the abyss thinking it would be our end. You were right. It was the end of the humans you knew. But it was also the beginning of something greater. You gave us the greatest gift possible. You gave us the chance to become impossible." She paused, letting her words ripple through probability. "The abyss still calls to us. It is our home now, our kingdom of chaos. But we are also here with you in this galaxy we all share. We are the bridge between order and chaos, between possible and impossible. And together, we will face whatever comes from beyond reality because we have learned the greatest truth of existence." "What truth?" the High Chancellor asked, his voice carrying wonder rather than fear now. Maya smiled, and in her smile was the swirling chaos of the abyss and the ordered beauty of the galaxy. United at last. That rules are meant to be broken. That impossibility is just possibility waiting for someone brave enough to believe in it. That chaos and order are not enemies but lovers dancing through eternity. And that humanity's greatest weakness, our refusal to accept things as they are, was always our greatest strength. She looked up at the stars visible through the impossible architecture of the hall. Somewhere out there, the abyss swirled with its broken physics and beautiful chaos. Human ships danced through its madness, discovering new impossibilities every day. The sleeper dreamed its ancient dreams, content with its partnership with humanity. And the galaxy, forever changed, spun on through a universe that had become infinitely stranger and more wonderful. "You exiled us," Maya said softly, "and in doing so you saved us all." The council said nothing, but their agreement rippled through reality. They had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the thing you fear most is exactly what you need. Sometimes chaos is salvation.